everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and we've just watched Survivor Series 2020. First of all, a big thank you to everybody who joined myself and Owen on our live stream and got involved with all of the reactions and everything. But now it's time to talk about what happened at the show. Obviously, there were a lot of things set for this show. The Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series tag team matches, both men's and women's. We had several champion versus champion matches. And of course, the final farewell of The Undertaker after 30 years in the business. So let's see what happened as we take a look at everything that went down. This is what happened at WWE Survivor Series 2020. Just a couple of things to note on the pre-show. First of all, and most importantly, obviously, the most important thing that happened on the entire show, the gobbledygooker showed up and rolled up R-Truth to win the 24/7 championship. No word on whether that was actually Hector Guerrero in the costume. I suspect not, but we didn't find out who it was at all. And elsewhere, we had the only match of the pre-show, a big battle royal featuring members of both the Raw and SmackDown brands. Some big names in this match. We had both Rey and Dominic Mysterio and Murphy. We had The Miz. We had people like Nakamura. We had people like Gable. People from all the way up and down the card, really. People who I think were quite noticeable by their absence from this match were Lars Sullivan, who I think I really picked to win the match, basically, before the show, and he just didn't turn up at all. And Big E, who I thought was going to definitely be in this match or find a way maybe onto the SmackDown Men's Survivor Series tag team, but neither of those things happened. Big E did show up briefly, but not in any sort of segment involving that or a match or anything. Instead, we had what was basically a fairly normal battle royal, really, and it all came down in the end to Dominic Mysterio and Chad Gable, and they had some nice exchanges back and forth. Just a reminder of how good Chad Gable is. Eventually, Dominic eliminated Chad Gable, but didn't win the match because, you know, this is how WWE always book battle royals these days. Someone had not been eliminated. That person was The Miz, who Dominic thought he'd eliminated earlier on because he threw him over the top rope. Miz landed on the apron, tried to get back under the ropes, rolled into the ring, and Dominic booted him back out. But Miz had kind of got all the way into the ring before he was kicked back out. So quite a unique spot there, one that I've never seen before. But, you know, it was yet another one of those, you know, weird, semi-predictable sort of finishes. And yeah, The Miz got back in the ring while Dominic's back was turned, threw him out and said, "Welcome to the big leagues, this is Team Raw," and you know, won the match and celebrated, of course, with his Money in the Bank briefcase. Would he cash in later on? We'll find out. Next up, the opening match of the main portion of the show, the Men's Survivor Series Elimination Tag, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. And the big story in the build-up to this one was, I think, the fact that Team Raw just couldn't get along, and AJ Styles was trying to make everybody get along. And over on Team SmackDown, you didn't have like the best of friends or anything, but they were all getting along a little bit better than Team Raw was, certainly. So we go back and forth at the start, a few nice opening exchanges between members of both teams, and then Seth Rollins gets the tag and very reluctantly enters the ring, and he did not look pleased during the entrances either to be a part of Team SmackDown. So Rollins gets in the ring, Sheamus is standing across from him representing Raw, and Rollins just kneels down and looks at him and says, "Do your part, you know, it's for the greater good." And I'm like, what's going on? Sheamus is a bit confused as well, but charges across the ring, brogue kick to a kneeling Seth Rollins, defenseless, willingly, and pins him. And Rollins is out of the match. And that's, you know, that's Rollins gone for a bit, if reports are to be believed. He's taking time off for the birth of his and Becky Lynch's child, so good luck to them. But what was this about? SmackDown are obviously a bit shook at this. They all have a bit of a team meeting outside the ring, but Braun Strowman from Team Raw is not hanging about, gets down off the apron and charges around and just clears them all out like a bowling ball, clattering into some pins. Back in the ring, we start to get something that resembles more of a match rather than someone voluntarily getting eliminated. Kevin Owens he just has a bit of a stunner party, hitting stunners left, right and centre, turns around, Styles springboards in, phenomenal forearm, and pins Kevin Owens. Already, we're down to 5-on-3. And then we get evidence of Team Raw actually working very well together because Corbin from SmackDown gets in, hits AJ with the end of days, 1-2, and like all the members of Team Raw jump in and break up the pinfall, and then Riddle gets on the top rope, corkscrew off, 1, 2, 3, Corbin's out, and it's 5-on-2 to Team Raw. Now it's Otis's time to shine for Team SmackDown. He's running wild on 4 of the 5 members of Team Raw. He's hitting the Caterpillar, he's tossing lads about left, right and centre. Then Strowman gets the tag, hits a running power slam, and Otis is out. It's 5-on-1 in pretty quick fashion. And the only man left on Team SmackDown is Jey Uso, under pressure from Roman Reigns to really win this match. And he's got odds of 5 opponents against just him, so it's not looking great for him, but he does run wild, like Otis did a few moments before. He gets AJ down on the canvas, heads up top for a splash, but Jordan Omogbehin, or Omos, as I think he's now known, his nameplate said Omos, I think, he drags AJ to safety, and Jey doesn't get to hit his splash. Jey manages to get AJ back in the ring, goes up top again. Keith Lee's got the tag meanwhile, and catches Jey off the top, across his shoulders, flips him around, huge set-out powerbomb, and that's the end of the match. It's a whitewash, it's a clean sweep for Team Raw. All the Raw guys are kind of half stunned, half jubilant. They're all kind of just celebrating and hugging each other. Styles looks delighted and shocked in equal measure. And that's the match. Raw with a clean sweep to win the... I mean, I'm quite speechless. I'm quite stunned. This is the way it went down. We cut backstage. Paul Heyman's watching on a screen as Uso is just down and out and crawling back to the, to the back, and Heyman looks very disappointed in him. So there you have it. First match over. Now on to the second one. The New Day taking on the Street Profits, a clash of 2 sets of tag team champions. And this is Big E's only appearance of the night. And he's not in the match, of course. He's just out with the New Day. They're all in their special Gears of War gear, of course, because they've been announced as DLC for the new Gears of War game. And they all come down to the ring. They look great, by the way, but they take, all the armor off for the match itself. But yeah, Big E's with them. But I don't think he sticks around at ringside for the match. I think he just heads back, and that's Big E's only involvement, despite him being quite a key figure on SmackDown at the moment, and many people's favourite for the Royal Rumble in January. The Street Profits cut a pre-match promo behind the curtain. It starts off lighthearted, they're doing impressions of The Undertaker and various other legends, but then they get really intense and serious and say this is the start of their legacy with a huge win over the New Day. And the Street Profits come out hot. They're really dominating the New Day for a while, but the New Day, they're not healing it up exactly, but they're playing the wily veterans. Yes, this is a face versus face encounter, but the New Day are kind of stepping into the role of default heels for this match. They're not cheating, they're not doing anything overly heelish, but they're kind of being cocky, kind of rubbing it in their younger opponents' faces. And at one stage, Kofi even kicks one of the Street Profits' paper cups. And you don't do that, Kofi. You don't do that at all. At one stage, it looks like the New Day have got the match won. They hit Montez Ford with the Midnight Hour, but Montez kicks out, and later on, Kofi kicks out of the kind of big spinebuster frog splash combination. And I think this match does a good job on the whole of keeping both teams strong, even though one team has to lose. It also shows that the Street Profits are really improving in kayfabe as a tag team. I mean, they're being a little bit audacious as well. At one point, Montez Ford ducks a Trouble in Paradise from Kofi and then hits him with his own move. He hits a Trouble in Paradise of his own. This is the real turning point of the match, I think, and it's not long afterwards that the Street Profits hit a kind of a double team blockbuster, kind of with one man holding their opponent on his shoulders, the other one forward diving off into a blockbuster, like a bit of a super blockbuster. Maybe that's... Have they used that much in the past? Is that like a new double team finisher for the lads? I'm not sure, but it's enough for them to pick up the win here. The two teams show respect afterwards. On our 9 pitches video earlier this week, I suggested that the New Day might turn heel and jump them after a show of respect, but there's nothing like that. The New Day stay face, everyone's just congratulating each other, and it's a nice moment, and an important one, I think, going forwards for Dawkins and Ford. Next up, another clash of champions, the IC champion Sami Zayn from SmackDown taking on Raw's and the Hurt Business's Bobby Lashley, the United States champ. Bit of a weird vibe in this one, because it's just so very heel versus heel. And obviously Lashley is out with all of the rest of the Hurt Business. He's got Cedric with him, Shelton, and MVP. And Sami's being his usual cowardly self, so he tries to run away at various points, or tries to cheat in some way, like trying to take the top turnbuckle off, but then he gets stopped by Shelton. He'll try to run away at one point, and MVP will just trip him over and stop him behind the ref's back. And that's very much the flow of the match. So you've got Lashley healing it up because he's got all his guys helping him, and you've got Zayn healing it up by trying to run away and or cheat. So yeah, a bit of a strange atmosphere. One moment that I did like was when it was a little callback to their previous feud a couple of years ago. Sami gets caught with the delaying vertical suplex from Lashley, and that gave him vertigo, remember, in their last feud. Well, he claims he's dizzy again, he's falling into the ropes, he gets the ref to check on him, and then when Lashley's got his back turned, Zayn was only playing possum, he doesn't really have vertigo. He rolls up Lashley for one, for a 1 count off a surprise roll-up. Cedric almost gets Bobby DQ'd at one point. He goes to hit Sami Zayn, but Shelton stops him. This is all on the outside. Later on, we get that spot that I just mentioned where Sami tries to run away. MVP trips him, throws him back in the ring. The ref didn't see any of it. And while Sami's complaining to the ref and to MVP for what's just happened, Lashley comes up from behind, gets him in the hurt lock, and Sami submits. And Bobby Lashley, maybe quite predictably, wins the match. Backstage, Jay is confronted by Roman Reigns, the head of the table, of course, and he says, you know what, Jay, you were meant to win that match, and you didn't. And Jimmy Uso is there as well, and he tries to stand up for his brother. He says, it was 5-on-1, Roman, what are you talking about? And Roman goes, Jimmy, I didn't ask you to be here. Go away. And Jimmy does. Roman then says, Jay, look, if you don't beat Team Raw, they don't respect you. Your teammates don't respect you because they don't fear you, and if they don't respect you, they don't respect our family. And because they don't respect you, you haven't got a place at the table. Get your brother and get out. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? The Usos have been banished from Roman's family. But there's not much time to dwell on that because straight away we have the clash of the 2 women's champions, Asuka from Raw and Sasha Banks from SmackDown. This has a bit of a technical opening, a lot of rolling around on the mat, trying to lock in different submissions. At one stage, Sasha does get the bank statement in, but Asuka manages to escape. She's really fresh. It's near the start of the match. But it's all Sasha at the start of this, really. She gets a backstabber not long after, but it's only a near fall. And I think on 2 separate occasions in the match, Sasha hits the backstabber, but chooses not to transition into the bank statement and just goes for the cover, and Asuka kicks out. And the match goes back and forth. They battle all kind of over the place, on the outside, on the apron, that sort of thing. Asuka hits a hip attack at one stage, knocking Sasha off to the floor. They tease a double count out at one point with both women just getting in the nick of time with the referee at the count of 9. Sasha goes for the frog splash. Asuka gets the foot up, but Sasha was ready for it. She lands on her feet and just rolls Asuka into the bank statement anyway, but Asuka gets out of that and locks in the Asuka lock. But Sasha gets out of it, and then Asuka gets out of that, and then there's a lot of rolling and reversals and pinfall attempts and submission attempts. They get into one of those seesaw kind of pinning predicaments, but neither woman can get the 3 count yet. So Asuka goes for the kick. She catches Sasha in the head. Sasha falls to her knees. Asuka measures her for a massive kick, and Sasha's ready for it and turns it into a really nice looking, a really nice looking rolling kind of reversal into a surprise pinfall attempt, and it's successful. She gets the win, and Sasha has toppled Asuka. I think this is really symbolic of a big push for Sasha Banks at the moment. But the other surprising thing to me was no Carmella. She didn't even show up after the match to attack Sasha. She didn't get involved during the match. There was no interaction between them for the rest of the night or before this match. No Carmella at all. I'm assuming their feud will continue next Friday on SmackDown. Backstage, the new 24/7 champion, the Gobbledygooker, is following a trail of Birdseed. This is feud of the year stuff. Gets attacked by Akira Tozawa, rolled up 1, 2, 3. Tozawa is the 24/7 champion once again. Tozawa gets attacked by R-Truth. A sack of Birdseed to the spine. Brutal hit taken there by Tozawa. He falls down. Truth makes the cover. And he's 24/7 champion again. Who saw that coming? Next up, we have the Women's Survivor Series Elimination Tag after Team Raw won with a clean sweep in the opening match, remember. So now SmackDown have to make this level. But it looks kind of on paper like Raw have the stronger team, especially early on, because Nia's getting ganged up on in the SmackDown corner and just powers out and knocks all of her opponents away. And it's like, oh, who's going to take care of Nia here? Who's going to take care of Shayna? Who's going to take care of Lana, you know? In fact, at one stage, Lana tags herself in and there's a lot of tension. Nia and Shayna are not happy. Lana gets in the ring and does well. She's wrestling with Natalya, she's getting the better of her. She wrestles a couple of the members of Team SmackDown and seems to be doing quite well, and then wants to tag back out, and nobody wants to tag her now. None of the team like her. Eventually, someone does accept that, I think it's Shayna, does accept, the tag, or Nia, one of the two, and Lana gets on the apron, but Nia and Shayna make her stand on the ring steps away from the corner slightly, and that's where she stays for literally where she stays for the rest of the match, I think. And after quite a long opening stretch without any eliminations, finally we do get our first one, with Peyton Royce eliminating Bayley clean with the deja vu, 1, 2, 3, and Bayley's out. Arguably Team SmackDown's biggest threat, and she's the first one gone. Shortly afterwards though, Peyton doesn't last very long because Natalya gets the sharpshooter on her, and Peyton is eliminated as well. And yes, even though this is Survivor Series, Peyton does actually tap out before the bell rings. But now it's Natalya's turn to get eliminated. Lacey Evans coming in with a huge women's right, 1, 2, 3, and we get a little burst of eliminations really after quite a long opening stretch without any to speak of. Next up we get, I think, my favourite spot of the match actually. It was something really cool that I don't think I've ever seen before. Basically it's Shayna Basler and Ruby Riot, they're the legal women in the match, and Shayna gets the Kirifuda clutch locked in, but Ruby reverses it, lying backwards and throwing her legs over her head and getting Shayna in a pinning predicament, but Nia has the referee distracted, so he can't count until much later on in the submission hold. So he turns around, 1, 2, Ruby Riot passes out and falls over, and Shayna pins her and eliminates her. I thought that was really nicely done, because it seemed like Ruby was going to get the pinfall anyway, but then you remember, oh, she's been in the Kirifuda clutch for a long time while Nia had the ref distracted. So I thought that was really inventive, and yeah, it was probably my favourite elimination, I think, of the whole night. Lacey Evans is still about, remember, as is Liv Morgan on Team SmackDown. Liv gets the better of the Team Raw member, eliminating Lacey with a very nice crucifix bomb, and we're down to the final stages now. We're down to Liv and Bianca against Nia, Shayna, and Lana, but Lana's not doing anything. So it's kind of 2-on-2 really, but Lana's also there. And Liv puts up a good effort against, the much stronger Nia, but eventually Nia does manage to eliminate Liv with the Samoan drop, and Shayna is on the outside stopping Bianca Belair from getting in and breaking up the pinfall. I would have liked to have seen that happen in the men's match, because there was a lot of eliminations that just happened with Team SmackDown watching on and not doing anything about it for no real reason. So now it is Bianca Belair against Shayna, Nia, and sort of Lana. And Shayna's first. She gets the Kirifuda clutch in on Bianca, but Belair is obviously the strongest, and she stands up, powers to her feet, stumbles towards the ropes, and collapses into them with the clutch still locked in. But I think this made Shayna look a bit stupid, really. She keeps the hold locked in for 5 seconds, and the ref DQs her. And yeah, I don't think that made Shayna look too smart. Nia's next. Her and Bianca brawl on the outside. Nia tries to put Bianca through the table, but she slips out, shoves Nia into the ring post. They brawl a bit more. Then I think Belair throws Nia over the barricade into the screens bit, and the referee reaches 10, and they're both counted out. And Lana, having done nothing for the vast majority of the match, is the sole survivor. And Team Raw's won again. So that's it, that's the match. Honestly, I was waiting at this point for Nia to grab Lana and slam her through the announce table, but she doesn't for some reason. And Owen pointed out, very good shout by him, that this is probably leading to a tables match between Nia and Lana at TLC. Next up, the final match of the night, which means that The Undertaker's final farewell is going to kind of effectively main event the show. So we get the final match of the night first, Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. And this was kind of a match of two halves for me. They had a big epic, opening. There was a big video package, long entrances, a big stare down as well in the middle of the ring, holding up the double titles against each other and everything. And I thought the first half of the match was actually really slow. It was like they were trying to give it an epic feel, but I feel like with no crowd there, and also with it happening quite late on in the night, it didn't quite work at first, for the first half of the match, I'd say. There are some nice moments in this slow portion of the match. Roman at one point, because he does a lot of trash talk in his matches these days as a heel, he's telling Drew he'll always be the number 2 champion in the company behind himself. And Drew answers with a Glasgow kiss and a future shock DDT, but Roman kicks out. The match starts to really pick up at this point. Roman goes for a spear, Drew catches him, a nice reversal into a Kimura. It very much seems like a move that Drew had pre-planned and thought about ahead of time, but Roman just about makes the ropes. We get some hardcore action, some brawling on the outside. Roman hits the Samoan drop on Drew, and the announce table doesn't break. So Drew gets off. Roman does it again, and this time does break the table, but the camera works all over the... This camera shot really annoyed me, because it just totally missed what happened, because it was too busy going, whoa, look at the carnage, look at the chaos. Let me see it then. But Roman's done the damage. He sits and looks at what he's done. He's sitting on the apron, and then he thinks, no, I've not done enough. Drew rises to his feet. Roman jumps off the apron, spear through the barricade behind the announce table, and immediately Roman grabs Drew, rolls him in the ring, 1-2, but Drew kicks out. So then Roman sets up for a spear. Drew reverses it, Claymore attempt, but then Roman gets a spear again, and Drew kicks out again. And at this point I'm thinking, okay, are they trying to make Drew look really, really strong, despite the fact that, he's probably not going to win this match? Roman goes for a last final spear to put Drew away, but Drew hits the Claymore, and Roman falls into the ref. He takes a nice bump and rolls out the ring, and all bets are off now. Immediately, here comes Jey Uso running down to the ring. He gets on the apron. Drew knocks him off, turns around, and it's enough time for Roman to have recovered a bit and hit a low blow. Drew, takes the low blow, full in the plums, turns around, super kick from Jey Uso, and Roman leaps and clamps on that guillotine. Drew fades, the referee recovers, checks on him, and Drew is out, and Roman Reigns has won the match. And afterwards, he welcomes Jey back into the family, and presumably Jimmy as well. But Jimmy has left, I think. But I think Jimmy must be back in the family too, right? Anyway, we'll find out on the next episode of SmackDown, I'm certain. But now it's time for the Undertaker's final farewell. And before Taker comes out, we have a huge just parade of so many figures from Undertaker's past. So I'll just run through them all now. Some surprising names as well. We've got Shane McMahon, Big Show, JBL, Jeff Hardy, Mick Foley, The Godfather, the Godwins, who I was very surprised to see, Savio Vega, Rikishi, Kevin Nash, Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Triple H, and finally Kane, in his ring gear as well. Then we get a long video package, a really well made one with a Metallica song in the background. I'm not sure which one it was. Metallica fans will let me know in the comments, unless it was a bespoke one made just for The Undertaker, but I don't know about that. Then we go back to the ring and all the legends are gone. And it's just Vince McMahon. And at this point I'm like, oh no, is Vince going to do what he did when he just ripped into Triple H and it was really awkward and very uncomfortable? No, Vince gives a very sincere speech actually. He talks just about what a great career Undertaker has had, everything that he's sacrificed for the business and for WWE. He also calls it WWF at one point. He says that, Taker's been here so long, he did so much for the WWF, let alone the WWE. And I'm like, oh, he said it. And it wasn't an accident, he said it on purpose as well, I'm pretty certain. Then Vince closes by saying that they say nothing lasts forever, but they're wrong, because Taker's legacy will live on forever. And I'm like, oh, Vince gave a very sincere and sentimental speech there. Vince leaves, and of course, here comes the dead man. A really long entrance, of course, his classic entrance. And at this point I'm thinking, it would have been really nice if a crowd had been there. And I know this was the 30-year anniversary and the most appropriate moment for it, but I hope he gets some kind, not a match, just some kind of send-off in the future, just in front of a crowd, you know what I mean? Taker says that for 30 years, he has laid souls to rest, and now it is time to let The Undertaker rest in peace. And he drops to one knee, does his pose, kind of a holographic image of Paul Bearer appears with the urn, and I mean, no one's doing a run-in now, not after that, that's it. The music hits again, Taker makes his slow exit, raises his arm, and he's off. Possibly forever. And that was it. No physical altercations, no match, nothing like that. Just a very sincere, very heartfelt moment from The Undertaker and a lot of the closest people to him. And Vince, and it was just, that's what it was. And really, looking at it now, I think that was probably the right decision. But anyway, that was the end of the show. That is what happened at Survivor Series 2020. What did you think of the show? Did you think it was good or bad or mixed? Let me know in that comment section down below. Will we see The Undertaker again in any capacity? Wrestling, non-wrestling? What? This seemed very final to me. But again, it was a shame no fans were there. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thanks to those who joined myself and Owen on stream. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Once again, leave your thoughts down there. Stay safe out there as well, of course. Stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.